The Earth wobbles on its axis. So if you drew a line from the South Pole to the North Pole and took it out into the heavens, there are times when it would point to one constellation and other times when it would point to a different constellation, and it would take something in the order of 25,000 years to make a complete rotation. And at the present time it's pointing somewhere between Pisces and Aquarius. It goes backwards, so 2,000 or so years from now it will be between Aquarius and Capricorn, and so on. And we can trace historically that there were great ages that took place, roughly 2,160 years long, that represent, in some way, those ages represent the qualities associated with the constellation, astrologically speaking, that the North Pole is pointing to. So we're just finishing off the age of Pisces and entering the age of Aquarius, and when that happens is very, very ill-defined. Nobody knows. It's not an exact event. Some people would say that it took place in the past, that the dawning of the scientific era, perhaps we could say Copernicus and Galileo, started to open up a different dimension of our awareness of the implications of the cosmos. That was the beginning of the age of scientific inquiry. Other people would say that the age of Aquarius hasn't really started yet. There are some astrologers that say it is yet to come. There was a big furore in the 60s about "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius," a very popular song. So on a cultural level you have that. This is what we sang into being. It's up to you when you think it's starting. It doesn't really matter very much, because the event that perhaps exemplifies the age doesn't bring with it the qualities of that age. If we think about Christ as being the most obvious representative of the age of Pisces some 2,000 years ago, as soon as Christ came, things did not change and become Pisces-like all of a sudden. The warrior qualities that preceded that, the Aries age, continued for some time. The Roman Empire typifying that, perhaps. That didn't end for another 500 years after the birthing of the age of Pisces. So I don't think we should get too excited about when the age of Aquarius begins. The suggestion, though, is that certain qualities that have been culturally established as norms will move in a certain direction towards different norms. And we are seeing evidence of that. One of the things about Aquarius is scientific discovery. And we have the space age, we have the computer age upon us now, which we didn't when I was born. So in my lifetime I've seen quite a big shift from nobody knowing about the age of Aquarius very much to everybody knowing about it, and computers and space travel and all that kind of stuff. There's been some major shift in that direction. So I think we're into the age of Aquarius, but I don't know when it started. And we see gender uncertainty developing culturally now. Men and women are not necessarily the only polarities of gender. And we had certain pop stars over the last good number of decades dressing as the opposite gender, to bring into our awareness this question of neither man nor woman. And this is an Aquarius thing, this kind of neutrality of gender. So we can look for that. We can look for other principles of Aquarius, like the humanitarian side. And there has been a great movement towards a greater statement of humanitarianism within my lifetime. It's useful to go back and see what the previous ages did, just to establish that there are such things as ages, and in what way do they impact upon us. So as I've said, that the age of Pisces probably began around the time of Christ. And we can also notice that Pisces, opposite to Virgo in the zodiac, gives rise to polarity of symbolism. Not only did we have Christ, whose representation was the fish, who was into martyrdom and self-sacrifice, who gave himself up for the rest of us, for our sins, but we also had the Virgin, the Virgo, the other side of things, the perfection of motherhood, and so on. So we have this kind of Pisces Virgo image really clear in the Christian culture, at least. It isn't so very different in Islam, in that there is this sense of Islam itself means surrender. So the last 2,000 years has been very much about laying down the ego in order to have a spiritual experience. We take that as read. It's hard even to debate the issue with most people. But it wasn't always the case. You know, before the age of Pisces, in the Age of Aries, we had gods of war worshipped. So warfare was considered a sacred act. And some of the heroes of that period are known because of their warfaring qualities. Achilles, for example. And the Roman Empire is the big feature of that era, which presented itself to the world as a dominant Aries-like force, you know, military and taking the initiative to grab. That's the downside of Aries, isn't it? Excuse me. Now, previous to the Age of Aries, and the dates are really not very clear, but let's go back another 2,000 odd years, and we find that there was Moses. Now, Moses was clearly an Aries type of guy, leading his people through the desert for a long, long time and forcing them to put up with hardship. Now, he came around at a time when, and he threw down the golden calf symbol. Now, the golden calf is clearly a Taurus image, and previous to the time of the Aries, the gods of war, was the period when the Minotaur was around. That was the story in Crete of the Minotaur. That was the many symbols of earth goddesses with bull's horns were seen in sort of the Middle Eastern area. And actually it was the time when oxen were yoked and the land was ploughed. So this whole thing of agriculture, taming the land, using oxen, it couldn't be a more obvious image of Taurus. And so, you know, we're talking about the age of Pisces starting around 0, Aries starting around 2000 BC, Taurus starting around 4000 or so BC. If you go back before then, actually you find that the use of wind was an important thing for travel. So an air sign, Gemini, and the whole idea of trading began in that era. And coins, in other words, monetary exchange, real Gemini things. And travel, of course, necessarily means that languages are brought into high relief. And you had the Phoenicians that used to travel at that time, going all over the place. There's a lot of travel going on a long time ago, despite what we might think. Now, previous to the age of Gemini, we would be looking for evidence of water, the age of Cancer, and we've got the flood, probably. These are the stories of Noah's flood and the flooding of the Nile that was kind of gave birth to the civilization of Egypt around that time. It's vague. It is vague, but it's kind of established. I mean, if you look clearly, deeply and subtly, you'll find clear evidence that there are these big ages of time. So, what does it mean for us to be approaching the age of Aquarius? People talk of it as though it's going to be the end of all our problems. You know, we're no longer going to be nasty people. We're suddenly going to wake up and be really, really nice people. And that's because of the humanitarian aspect of Aquarius, as though all Aquarius people were good guys. But that's not realistic, is it? Aquarius and Leo need to be looked for. So you have this kind of sense of Leo and kingship, claiming, the corporate giants are going to be starting to claim their territories more as we approach the age of Capricorn. I mean, if the age of Aquarius is supposed to be the good age, what about the age of Capricorn? When commercial greed and so on is very likely to be one of the features, even more than it is now. So what's the age of Aquarius mean to us? Well, it means whatever you want it to mean, really. It's not deterministic. The self-sacrifice of Pisces will be replaced by more self-serving qualities on the one hand because of the Leo, but on the other hand, community awareness, doing things for the whole, having a sense of the spirituality of sharing in a group consciousness, rather than the self-sacrifice to a god that represents sacrifice, which was the Pisces era that we were moving out of. However, change is good, isn't it? We want some big change to occur, and that's what people are looking for, a big change. And they hope for the best, so there's nothing wrong with that.